You're listening to Life and Shyt. I'm Daneyel Walker.
And I'm Tommy Walker.
Join us as we talk about our journey overcoming fears, boundaries, marriage, family, lifestyle, business, and whatever other shit you can think of.
We're individuals that came together to create one unit with one mind and one goal. What's up, Mrs. Walker?
What's going on, baby?
Another beautiful day in paradise.
Another beautiful day.
Yeah, I'm feeling amazing.
That's what's up. Me too, babe. Me too. Finally back in the gym, so
Oh,
getting my little workout on. Got my Pilates class on today with my baby too. I was like, okay, it's pretty cool working out with you.
I like Pilates.
Yeah. She was trying to stick it to you too.
I'll be in
Like,
there
this is for
shaking
you.
like a motherfucker. Last time I was the only dude in there. Today I was dude number 2.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was late. I was like,
Dude
fuck this.
number 2.
I'm wearing sneakers today. Last time I was trying to be fancy with no sneakers, and it didn't go great. It didn't go exactly how I wanted. Today was much better.
Yeah, today was
Today
good.
was much better. The
Today
sneakers
was
gave me
good.
a nice little balance.
Yeah.
She wasn't making fun of me the whole time.
No, last week was my first week back in the gym since my surgery. So it was a nice week in the beginning.
Let me correct you. Since you found out that you were injured, like
Yeah,
you haven't worked, so
you're right.
it's
You're right.
been
You're right.
over
Since I
18
actually hurt
months.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
You didn't hurt yourself.
Well, when all that happened.
Yeah, exactly. You wasn't like you was out there shooting in the gym.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you ain't even lying. I was just walking around being a normal human. All of a sudden, it's like, bah. But anywho,
That's exactly what happened.
Since then, this is my first time back in, so I've been very conscious and moving slow, but still moving, right? So I'm not stopping myself. I'm just kind of going until I feel it, and then if I feel it, then it's like, okay, stop,
Yeah.
So I'm just testing it out.
But that's a big deal because when I had surgery, I didn't go back to the gym for 18 months, and I actually did get hurt in the gym. So I had like a little, the gym did
Fear,
it to me.
PTSD,
I ain't doing it.
Legit, I could see that.
And now, I go back in. I don't hit the weights as hard as I used to, but I don't need to.
Yeah.
Like that was back in my military days. There's no reason for this guy to be that diesel. Right now, I just want to, live a nice, strong life.
And be healthy, right?
Yeah, that's
Maintain, be able to take your shirt off still.
That's it. 20 years from now, I want to be able to do a push-up.
I love it. He said, I got nothing to prove.
Nothing. I hurt my shoulders doing the barbells, dumbbells. I was doing dumbbells, 65 pounds on each arm.
Yikes.
And just snap. So I understand, baby.
Yeah.
Great job.
That's why you scare me whenever you're working out, but thank you.
Hit me with your question.
Oh, so have you ever in your childhood or your adult life lived with 8 people in one house? Or okay, let me correct that. A 2-bedroom house.
A 2-bedroom house.
Mm-hmm.
8 people.
Yep.
Hell no.
That's like what we would call back in the day a tiny home or a multi-family home.
I don't know what the fuck you call that. Sounds like a terrible idea. Sound like some adults fucked up.
You stupid. Or they got together to make it a common ground for their family to all grow up together and save money.
Okay, I can dig that.
Mm-hmm.
Did they all come out of that owning property and rich?
Oh gosh, no.
So
At the end of it, perhaps. Perhaps at the end. I'm not going to judge. I don't know if they fucked up or not, but that's the situation that they found themselves in.
Well, it sounds like you know this from experience. So
Yeah.
have you lived in a 2-bedroom
Yes, I have.
with 8 other human beings?
Yes, I have. I'm not going to say the adults fucked up because I don't know that. No. It's the situation that they were in. And it was my mom. And my couple of times, a couple of different aunties. And the aunties always had either 4 to 5 kids like my mom. No, I think they always had 4. And then there was 5 of us. Then it was my mom. And then my auntie, and then either they had a husband or a boyfriend or something at the time. So actually, it was more than 8 of us there.
I'm about to say it sound like double digits. That's what it sound like.
It could have been 10 to 11 at any time. Yeah. And I remember, I'll never forget one time I went away for summer vacation, and when I came back, my mom had gave my room to a guy. Like
God damn.
And when I
Really?
got back, he was still there, and I'm just like, they're like, oh, he was here for the summer, and I was like, okay, like the summer's over, you know what I mean?
What?
Like, so is he leaving anytime? It took like 2 months or so before the guy left. It was weird.
And so you're a kid and you don't know if he's paying rent, helping out.
Oh God, I don't know
Like,
any of that, but
yeah,
I'm
you
sure
have
he
no
was.
idea.
I'm sure there's some kind of an agreement, right?
You would hope so. Okay.
Yeah, but before then, it was fun. It was so much fun. We used to have pallets everywhere. I know you didn't know what pallets were.
I was like, a pallet. That's some shit you see on the loading dock.
It's so funny. I know, right? I didn't know what a real pallet was until I was growing up. But a pallet for for us, in our household, it was just like a stack of blankets that you put on the ground, and that's where we'd sleep. So we'd have a little pallet in the living room, a little pallet next to one of the beds in the bedroom, and we'd all kind of have somewhere to stay.
And that was every day.
That was every night.
You went to school. You woke up. Did you make your pallet? Like,
Yeah, we had to put our pallets away. You just basically just filled up all the covers and put them in the cabinet.
Put them in the closet.
Yep, and then pull them
and
all
then
out.
night, you had to pull them out.
And I guess, air mattresses weren't really a big deal then. I mean, this is a while ago, right?
I mean, back when I was younger, wasn't no air mattress.
Yeah.
We had a cot.
Okay.
You remember that?
No, we didn't have cots. That's probably some rich
That was some
stuff.
fancy shit.
Yeah.
We had a cot.
It was like, go get the cot. Nah.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of us. So, I mean, if it was a cot, like it was a big cot, or like could a family sleep on that cot?
No, hell no.
Oh, okay, see.
No, this cot
We would have had cots everywhere.
It was a twin size bed cot. It was rusty. It was old. It was metal. It folded up. And more than likely, it was probably passed down from like my grandparents or something like that. Yeah. And it was in the basement. See, the way we grew up though, like when we had families living together, it was in the house, but we had in New York, we got different levels of the house.
Yeah. So
you
the
got
family
back
be in the
house,
basement or
the upstairs, and then eventually they tricked out. My mom's tricked out the basement, and then that became like a studio.
Oh yeah, that's different.
So it wasn't like a stranger was ever living there, but it was all family. So all of my mother's cousins, we all lived in a house together. But everybody had their own kitchen. They had their own bedrooms.
And you know what? That's a sense of that's an alternative housing, right?
That's alternative living.
That's what we're talking about today, right, ladies and gentlemen? And if you have one big house and then you flip that and you make a bunch of small little living dwellings out of it, then that is alternative housing.
And no lie, no lie, like that helps. It kind of puts you on a different trajectory, right? Because it's like, all right, either I'm in a tight situation or I got goals. Yeah. And if you got this 2-bedroom or you got a studio and you got upstairs, then hell yeah, right? Because it's one mortgage. Yeah. And then we split that 3 ways. That sounds like a winning situation.
And you said what if you're in a tight situation or you have goals, or and this isn't saying this. Any people just want to live in tiny spaces or want to stay together. Some people don't want to live alone. Some people want to live with somebody, or some people just want to stay in a studio, and they're fine with that. They don't need much. They're the minimalist. Yeah. That you always talk about. I can't say the word because I don't like it. No, but I'm not a minimalist at all.
You're telling the truth. God damn.
I'm learning. I'm learning though. Honestly, I've been looking through all the just stuff.
All the shit that you got.
Stuff.
All the shit that you have.
Yeah, of course. And Tommy's always like, you have so much stuff. And, I came from a family where we really didn't have a lot of stuff back in the day. So I do tend to kind of have a bunch of stuff, but that's a whole nother story. Some cool alternative spaces other than just like the tiny homes, which tiny homes are pretty cool nowadays. People trick out spots where it's like it's a whole bedroom and then you flip this, flip that, and then it's a kitchen. Yeah. It's like the Jetsons, huh? Right? Like the Jetsons are real now. It's like everything they showed us.
It's a trip how popular things got, right? So alternative living for me was not a big deal because I had to join the military. And when I was in the military, you could call this alternative living. You sleep in a barracks, right? Mm-hmm. Barracks is not great. It's like dorms, in between dorms and projects.
That makes sense.
It's like almost close to the projects without the roaches. Not as cool as dorms, right?
That's hilarious.
And then when you live on ship, that's even worse because it's even tighter because you got 3 dudes on the bed and you have zero choice of how you're living, right? So that alternative living is different. shout out to the Marines and the Army who actually just sleep in tents
Right.
or outside.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you know, you live like that for months on end. And then we had the barge. I never knew what a barge was. And then we show up. I'm in Mobile, Alabama, and he was like, "Yo, you're sleeping on the barge for the next 2 months." I was like, "Where's the barge at?" They pointed to this white building floating on the bay.
Oh my god!
I was like, "Oh shit!" It had 4 floors.
Oh my goodness!
It looked like an insane asylum. Like
Yeah,
I
you
was
showed
like,
me one, and I was like,
like, we got to live on that? He's like, yeah, you got to live on that. So we go in, we check in. There was no heat, no air, and this was in the wintertime. No circulation, like nothing. So they was like, all right, the barge is not working. You guys got to live in a hotel. I was like, whoa.
"Oh, you was free." Yeah, like,
but it was the Ramada Inn.
Mississippi, no heat. Well, the Ramada Inn's not that bad. Oh, I guess in Mississippi.
No, Alabama.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you said Mississippi, Alabama.
Yeah,
Ugh,
Mobile,
okay.
Alabama.
Oh.
That was my Alabama alternative living.
Oh wow.
So living tiny for me, it was normal for a long time.
It would be no problem. Could you live like that now?
Right now, 1,000%.
Yeah.
My kids wouldn't like it, but I could live like it.
Yeah, because they would never be able to come over.
Yeah, no. We had an issue this past weekend, right? So Daniela and I finally live alone for the first time in 18 years, right?
Yeah.
Which is that's the way it's supposed to be. So 18 years, what happens? All of your kids are supposed to move out.
Well, if they're all at the same age, but if you're lucky, in 18 years, it just worked out that way for us.
So now when we leave, we go on vacation or something like that, our kids tend to move in for how many days we're gone.
They're smart.
Yeah. No, they ain't that smart.
Because they would clean up.
Yeah. So now we come back. The last few times we left, we come back and the house looks like shit. I mean, just you could tell somebody
Just
was
stuff
there.
everywhere, y'all.
So now I took all the keys from the kids, and they looked at me.
Sad.
Yeah, they was like, "Dad, what the fuck?" Like they looked at me
I
like,
had
"Are
nothing
you
to do with
serious?"
that, y'all.
And they asked, "What happens in the case of an emergency?" It's like, I got neighbors, I got friends. Don't worry about it. Like,
If something happens, we're inside. They could be looking like we can't even get inside.
nah, don't worry. Believe me, we Gucci. I told her, I said, I don't even have kids. I only have keys to my parents' house, so you guys will be okay.
Maybe your parents still live in California. Anyways, we'll see how this works out. What about an ADU, babe?
All right, so ADUs is pretty dope. It's more popular nowadays, and with density issues or housing issues that we're seeing in a lot of metropolitan cities, ADUs is now, there's laws passed where you could put an ADU in your backyard. Like San Diego, you could do that.
States like California and Los Angeles actually have really opened up for these smaller like dwelling places, which is really cool because they're most of the time, or no, not even most of the time. I say sometimes there are these like prefabricated like dwellings, right? And they kind of just like pop them up on your property. But sometimes you can have them built, right? Like from scratch, however you want it. I guess it depends on what your money is.
Yeah, we call it, back in the real estate days when I used to do, sell real estate, you had your prefab homes.
Okay.
Right? So you have prefab homes. And then even down to, I got a buddy that does mobile home parks. Like he actually buys mobile home parks. Now, for us, that wasn't never a thing. Like, because first of all, I never lived next to one. And then when you see it, the first thing you think of is, oh, no, I will never move there. It's too small, whatever your prejudice was about it. But that's another form of alternative living that's off the chain.
Motorhomes is. That would be the next thing I was going to talk about. But I mean, ADUs, I went, the ones that I've seen, they don't look anything like motorhomes. They're like,
no, you're like little
2-story and they have like beautiful kitchens and they're nice, really, really nice. Not that motorhomes don't have that. Because they do, but the ADUs are almost just like small houses. So
alternative living is becoming more. I don't know if it's more and more popular. I don't want to say it's more and more popular, but it's definitely coming around in our ecosystem a lot more. Like it's popping up from people living off the grid to and people that want to live off the grid for whatever reason, right? We've heard stories of the government is not going to control me if I live off the grid. And
or
then
even just getting away.
Yeah, or just getting away from all the normal.
Yeah.
And then you got people that just like, I got some new goals. I got some new things that I want to do. And in order to maintain in order to change my trajectory, I need to downsize the way I live. Back to what you're saying, minimalist lifestyle. which I'm not a true minimalist, so don't put that out there like that. But I do like the idea.
Oh, I just say you say I'm just the opposite of it, right?
I like the idea. So people are really just kind of thinking like how they're living and saying, do I really need all this shit?
Yeah.
And is it helping me get to my goals? Right. And if it's not, then let me figure out something else. Let me go get a RV. You know, we was talking to our producer. He was talking about, you know, changing things up with, you know, and how you live.
Yeah, yeah. A motorhome, just being able to go. And they do RVs and motorhomes amazing nowadays. You know, you push a button and it opens, and I mean, everything could be so high tech now. You can actually like have a designer come in and just like design it the way you want. Like, it just depends on how much money you want to spend.
1,000%.
Another thing is houseboats. And
that sounds fancy.
And I think that places like applications like Airbnb has kind of opened up this world, because there's these like I don't know if anyone uses the Airbnb application, then you see on the top it has these different types of dwellings you could stay in. Houseboats now is like one of those things, and there's some really nice houseboats, and it's like I would have never thought to stay in a houseboat, but that is one of the things that they have on there. And you can actually get a used houseboat for about $40,000.
That's not bad at all. Now are you because San Diego, they got a few. Like if you walk down the Embarcadero, you'll see some people living on houses, and they got little dinghies, right? So I mean, when you think about convenience though, right? Because when you do have this alternative living, convenience kind of goes out the window sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you give up something for something, right?
You're giving up a lot.
Yeah.
And if you one of those people that like to party, you like to host, you ain't doing a lot of hosting.
Yeah. I mean,
you ain't building pallets for a bunch of kids.
Nah, you're not doing that. And then even if you're in a houseboat, you still have to pay like the price to dock wherever you dock, right? So it's like however nice you want it to be, or because I'm sure, no, if it's a houseboat, I guess it stays where it is. It doesn't really go, huh? So wherever your rental spot is, then
no, unless you pull anchor and then you like, all right, I'm out for a little bit, but still, you know, it ain't like you out there on the ocean on a houseboat.
Yeah, that's true.
You close by where the water's nice and steady.
That's true. Have you seen these shipping containers that people have kind of flipped into homes now?
Those are dope.
I think that's pretty cool. That's a cool idea. It's inexpensive, right? And it's like a dwelling now.
Yeah. I mean, what they're doing with shipping containers, period, is pretty dope. I think the first time I've ever seen one, it was like on a hill in Bonita. With the windows on the, you know, there's just a view.
We'd heard about them, but they're like, we'd never seen it.
Yeah. It's my first experience with people with alternative living. We had some friends in Encinitas, and they owned this big ass, beautiful house in Encinitas. Oh, yeah. I mean, different areas, pool, like the whole 9 yards, everything that you want. It was only 2 of them, and they lived in a garage. And we were like, I mean, but they tricked the garage out. It was a studio.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, you couldn't tell unless you've seen it from the outside.
Yeah,
like,
it was like,
this is a garage. But you walk in and it's like, oh, damn.
And their reason, because we were like, why you guys live in the garage?
Right.
We got all this house. They had goals. They was like, well, we rent the rest of the house out, separate rooms, Airbnb to their friends, or whatever the case may be, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and them living in the garage, tricked out, is much better because they pay their mortgage and more than create income.
Yep.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I was like, that is smart.
Yep. And then we seen them actually, after they didn't sell that house, I guess they kept that house and then they got another house, right? And did kind of the same thing. And we got to see the process from the beginning this time, instead of like the end, where they ended up in the garage, right? This time they had the whole house, which is amazing. And we got to see how they kind of sectioned it off and made it separate little places. And this house actually had a wine cellar. Yeah. That house was dope.
That shit was off the chain.
It was
off
dope.
the chain. And then we had friends. One friend, he's from Morocco, and his wife is from Tecate, and they bought a brand new RV, parked it in a family member's driveway, and I mean this thing, flat screen TVs built in, extended. I was like,
oh yeah, that was dope.
I was like, yo, how much you pay for this? He was like, it was like $16,000.
Yeah,
$16,000. You live in pretty nice luxury wise. You go anywhere you want. What was the point? He said he wanted to start his business. So he did it. They took a step back, got out of the 2-bedroom apartment, wanted to build the business up. So they said, we're going to dial back how we live. Great ideas.
Yep, did it. And now they're back in their 2-bedroom.
Back in their 2-bedroom and running their businesses, right?
Yep, just like that.
So the image, people think like, oh, well, you got to have this big lavish life and you got to, live a certain way. But honestly, if you dial it down if you think about how much we pay to live right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And Danielle always plays. She was like, "Babe, we could live in a tent." I'm like, yeah, not your stuff having ass.
Oh,
but
no, the tent would be nice. And I have my stuff. Have you ever heard of a pallet home?
Mm-mm.
A pallet home is just like,
a pallet home
made out of all alternative like pallets. No,
actually real pallets.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Not the pallets you used to sleep on.
No. These are real pallets. Yes. Okay, so he's silly. I didn't even think about that. I'm like, no, it's a real pallet. No, like the pallets the actual ones that you were talking about, the only ones you actually knew about. Yes, so there, people are actually doing their best to do all kinds of stuff with that, actually, from furniture to now homes, apparently.
Would you live in a treehouse?
Yeah, that was my next one. Yes, a treehouse. Nowadays, yes. Treehouses are amazing. There's, like I said, once again, an Airbnb. You look at some, don't get me wrong. It may not be in Tennessee. It may be in like Bali somewhere, but I'll live in one.
Made me think about Bali and all of their mosquitoes. So the thing they don't tell you about that, because you live in it. It looks so cool, true. But then again, inconvenience, right?
Yeah.
How comfortable are you?
Yeah, you're right. It's like you have lower expenses, right? You don't need much energy. So like you said, you do have that opportunity to maybe off the grid. At times, in any of the dwellings that we've talked about. But uncomfortable because then you don't have the Wi-Fi. You don't have that Wi-Fi everywhere.
I'm sure you probably get a little stick or something like that. I think that for me, don't judge me. But I think the one thing about having alternative living, right? Because you live in a little smaller, right? You're a little compact. Mm-hmm. If you do have somebody over, we tend to have people over that fuck shit up.
Oh boy, nobody coming over our house.
Yeah, so when you live in a smaller, right? And somebody
kids ain't coming over they fuck up shit.
Yeah, somebody fucks something up. That's a big inconvenience, right? It's like yo, I only have one toilet. I only have one shower. Like now I can't do what I normally do because you fucked it up.
It's legit too. I want to say one of my aunties told me before, it's not you that messes your stuff up, it's other people, right? And I never understood that at first, and then I was like, you know what? Anything that's been tore up in our house, no, we didn't do it. We had no control. But another thing about having an alternative type of housing situation, like if it was a motorhome, you have the freedom and the ease to like go and move wherever you want to be. So it's like, you know what? It's hot, so I'm going to go where it's a little bit cooler, or So I think that's pretty cool when it comes to alternative living. And then it's like you could be around, like if you lived in a treehouse. I'm sure this treehouse is in the city, so you can go to the city and hang out, and then be like, I'm out. I'm going back to my treehouse.
You at the bar talking to some girl, some dude. You having a night out. You. Somebody's buying you drinks. Yo, I want to go back to the house with you. Nah. Can't go back to my tree
like
house.
It's an adventure. Yeah. Or a yurt. Like you say, you're like, you don't like a yurt. But even just saying, I live in a yurt, girl. Like, what? Like, no. But yurts are pretty cool.
I don't know. You got to have somebody that's on the same page with you. And
definitely.
Of course, you have to explain why you live the way you live, right?
Yeah.
But then you got people, like we met a couple while we was in Alaska, a couple that lived in Minnesota. And they live on like 10 acres of land and have a tiny house. Mm-hmm. That's by choice. Mm-hmm. Straight.
Simpler life.
Yeah, 250 square foot house on 10 acres of land. It's not always a bad thing, right? It is definitely a choice, and it's definitely, and we've seen a lot of beautiful ones. Mm-hmm. So we are going to start our tiny home journey, but we're not going to live in it. We're just going to build one and put it in the backyard.
Yes, a yurt.
Yeah. Are we going with the yurt?
Yeah, babe.
You are down. We went from a teepee.
I mean, the teepee was a little smaller. A tent, I thought, but then I seen a yurt and I was like, this is it. This is it. Well, I want to say, if we did go the ADU route, then I have seen on the most expensive things with my guy 2 Chainz. It's one of my favorite shows.
If you have never heard of it, the most expensivest.
He's not paying us to promote it, but
but it is hilarious.
It's hilarious, and I'm telling you, I have learned of some great things there. Everything's not all super expensive. But he did have this one series where he talked about these ADUs, and they were amazing, and they were all sustainable, right? So the water came in through the roof, and then it went down, and it was all the water that you drink, and then it went down to the toilet, and then the water from the toilet was actually cleaned and then refreshed and pushed back out. It was amazing. I was like, it was actually beautiful too. It was really nicely done, and you can actually so it's like 2-story, or you just can stack them on top of each other and do more than one or more than 2 or 3. I was like, okay.
So I'm looking at a yurt right now, and it does look pretty dope.
Yeah, I'm telling you, isn't that what we kind of seen, right? And then I'm like, okay, so in the back you put a see-through shower though, right? So like all that's with a what do you call that? It's the glass that's kind of like a mirror on one side, and then so you can see out. So you're like in the canyon, like taking a nice little shower, and nobody sees you. See. I see it here in my head. I just need a designer that's gonna.
They're gonna be like, all right, Wednesday night we sleeping in the yurt.
Yep. Every other weekend we're like, okay, we're gonna Airbnb the house and we'll be in the yurt. Don't worry, we'll be fine. We'll be comfortable in the yurt.
But at the end of the day, we're talking about having a yurt because it creates passive income. So so we're making fun of a lot of this stuff, but alternative living really sets you up for a different life, especially if you do it by choice. So, at the end of the day, if you have an opportunity to create passive income, it's the reason why Uber, Airbnb, these businesses was created. It was because we had these extra things that was just sitting, and it was an opportunity to take that and create income from it.
True.
And if we're sitting, I mean, us personally, we live in San Diego, and we have a decent sized backyard that we don't use.
Yeah.
So putting a yurt back there will create passive income. So kind of think about that stuff. And we talk about different business opportunities, and we talk about how to set yourself up. These are all different things of thinking outside the box, right? And you could take, we made fun of how we lived growing up as kids, how family members come together. But if you look at a lot of different cultures come together living in a house. And we talked about this before in another podcast, where each member of the family has a purpose, and they come to the table not living in the house because they didn't want to work, or they're just, like trying to live off of the person whose house it is. Everything was a purpose, right? So whatever alternative living lifestyle that you have, hopefully it's a good situation that you chose, and that, some good things come from that. But think about the different opportunities, the different options that you have. And if you have a goal, fuck your ego, let's focus on those goals. And think about your why. Think about why you're doing what you're doing. Build your plan, and then work backwards from that.
Yeah. I totally agree. It leads me to my quote that I have. There is only one success, to be able to spend your life your own way. And that is Christopher Morley. And to that I say, like amen, brother, because if you could do it your way, do it your way, and that means not living like we actually were talking to our producer, and he was telling us a story about a gentleman who had come here from Sudan, I believe it was, and how he had this total different concept of how your living dwelling went, right? Like where you lived, and to pay for a place to live was just like madness to him, so if it's your choice to kind of pull back and live wherever you want, you know what I mean, and pay whatever you want, or pay the rent that you do and be okay with that, you know what I mean. But it's freedom. It's a bit of freedom, and if you want to be given everything, you have to give up everything, and then that's lasso. And basically, that's what you have to do. That minimalist life is a rough one to me.
I'm gonna need you to repeat that one because that you can't let that just go over.
Okay.
That's huge.
Yeah. If you want to be given everything, you have to be willing to give everything up, right? And that's that simple life. That's the having not having the bulging wardrobes or the excessive gadgets or electronics, things like that that stimulate us. And then when they go out, we're just like, what do we do? But simple life is always the best.
That's life and shit.
It's life and shit.
I love you, girl.
Love you,
baby. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. That's the only way that this show is going to be successful. And we appreciate you. Talk with you next time.